What's going on, guys? Aaron from PhoneDog.com here, and the Motorola Photon 4G is arguably one of the best, if not the best, Android handset, or handset period, on Sprint, but there's a contender that came up behind it and kind of surprised it, took it by storm with a late software update, and that's the Motorola Atrix 4G. It's packing Gingerbread now, making these devices pretty similar in a lot of ways. Dual-core 1 GHz processors, 4-inch display here, 4.3-inch over here, 5-megapixel camera on the Atrix, 8-megapixel. Actually, in specs-wise, they don't really seem that similar, but they're both running Motorola's applications platform and, of course, Android 2.3. Which one's the one to get? We'll find out in the dogfight. First, special thanks to my buds at Best Buy, because when you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working regardless of which device you get. They'll help you set up your email, your web, and more. They hook us up with a bunch of phones in our One Paw Bandit game, so we love to give them a special shout in our videos. Here it comes, Motorola Photon 4G, Motorola Atrix 4G. Which one's the best? Let's go check it out in the dogfight, which starts right now. Here they are, two bad boys on the block, if you will. The Motorola Photon 4G, available at Sprint now for $199.99, and it's arguably one of the carriers, well, actually not arguably, it's one of the carrier's best smartphones, if not the best, in terms of, a lot of ways. If you watch the review, the wireless radio is fantastic. It seems to be a bit faster in day-to-day performance, and battery life is much better as well, not to mention it has global roaming capabilities. Then you have the Motorola Atrix 4G, which was just updated to Android 2.3 Gingerbread with a new build of Motorola's applications platform. Now, it couldn't have competed before on the software front because it was very laggy, it consistently hung up, but now these can go head-to-head, and it can really be an honest dogfight between these two devices on these two different carriers. Now, you'll notice it's funny because both of these are running Android 2.3, both of these are running Motorola's applications platform, but you'll notice some minor differences, and this goes to show you how fragmentation exists. I hate that word, but fragmentation exists even in Motorola's the custom UIs, not just Android, but the custom UIs that the manufacturers make. You can see, for example, the browser differences and the text messaging differences. I have these icons exactly the same on both, and you can see how this one has a smiley face for the text messaging, whereas this one's an envelope, and this browser looks a little bit different than the one with AT&T logo built in. The Contacts app, or icon rather, looks different. Little things like that. So it's interesting to see all the differences between the devices. But anyway, let's go over some specs. 1 GHz dual-core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processors on both of these bad boys. That's really the only thing that's the same. This one has a 4.3-inch QHD display. It's Pentile technology, which we'll get into a little bit later in the video, but it's high resolution, and because it's Pentile, it's brighter. The viewing angles are a little bit better, and then, of course, battery life's improved as well because of the technology. This one has a 4-inch QHD display, which uses Pentile. So same technology, same high-resolution display. This one's just 4.3 inches, whereas this one is 4 inches. 8-megapixel camera on the back of this one, 5-megapixel camera on the back of the Atrix 4G. Now, you have a kickstand on the Photon, but it's interesting. I've only had this device for a couple weeks, and you can see how scratched up it already is. So, a note of warning to people that are finicky about that, kind of OCD about how their device looks. If you're a lot like me, that's going to annoy you after a couple of weeks getting that nicked up. So it has a micro USB charging port, HDMI port over here on the side of the Photon, volume rocker, and you can see it really looks a lot like an IDEN device. Just focusing on this for a second, it looks a lot like something you'd see on the Nextel network, but it is a Sprint CDMA device. Camera shortcut button, though, interestingly enough, it does not allow for autofocus. It's either press it all the way in or don't press it at all because there's no autofocus feature. You have your 4 capacitive buttons down here, menu, home, back, and search. Camera on the back. Now, this is a global roaming device, so you can take it overseas. It's actually Sprint's first 4G device to have global roaming capability. So it has a SIM card slot in the back over here just beside the SD card slot where you can take it overseas and use it. And Sprint seems to be pretty decent about unlocking their devices. So if you don't want to use Sprint's international services, you should be able to get a SIM card with the appropriate frequencies and go from there. So it has a 1,000. I'm gonna have to do the thing I hate to do and pull it out, but it's 1,650 milliamp hour battery. 1,650 milliamp hour battery on this one, and then on the Atrix, I want to say it's 1,500, but honestly, it's been so long since I've reviewed it. Let's take a look just to be sure. I think it's 1,500 milliamp hour battery if I remember right on this bad boy. Let's see here. And yeah, sorry, I know I have to take it out. No, even better. Okay, it's 1,800. That's right, 1,930 milliamp hour battery in this sucker. So 1,930, much bigger battery in the Atrix 4G, and that combined with the screen size is going to make for a little bit better battery life on the side of the Atrix as opposed to the Photon 4G. But there are the specs. Front-facing cameras on both of these devices. Let me get this battery cover back in so it looks a little better, and we'll wait for those to load back up. HDMI port over here. micro USB charging port, you have your volume rocker over here. No physical camera button, but you do have a 3.5mm headphone jack, and you have a biometric security reader, so you can program your fingerprint into this device and use your fingerprint to access it, as opposed to using normal password, be it a PIN or be it a physical password. Now, the Motorola applications platform, I was never a fan of blur. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I hated blur, and that was one of the things that was frustrating about the Atrix and about some of these other Motorola devices that have come out over the years, like the Devour, and even though it was a mid-range device, still not the greatest platform in the world. So you can see here they've made some significant improvements, and we'll just go through what's installed on both of these devices. So here you can see this blue kind of color scheme that comes with the new build of Motorola's applications platform. And you can see a shortcut to the market up here, and then you have all apps, which you can organize by all recent downloaded or Sprint. So I can go in here into Sprint, for example, see all the Sprint apps, and I can uninstall those directly from the menu thanks to Gingerbread. So I don't want NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile, I can uninstall it, and it'll bring it right up and give me the option to uninstall. So that's a nifty little feature. Then of course you get this add button. Let me go back in here so you can see. And then you can add apps over into the Sprint folder as well. So you can go back into all and see what comes pre-installed on this. So out of the box you get, you can see some of the differences in the icons between this and one of the older versions, like what was on the Droid X before it got its Gingerbread update. And some of the older Motorola stuff, you can see accounts there, a different app, or different icon rather, browser, different icon, camcorder, and camera. But what comes pre-installed out of the box, not including the apps that I've downloaded: NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile, Rich Location, which is a really, really cool tool. I'll show you that in just a second. Sprint ID, Sprint Mobile Wallet, Quick Office, Sprint Music Plus, Radio, TV and Movies, Sprint Worldwide, Sprint Zone, and then Web-Top Connector. So just like the Atrix, this device can access Motorola's Web-Top Connector, so you can plug it down, you put it down in there in the Web-Top Connector, and use a dock. I've been using the dock for a couple of days, and I can charge it from the dock. I can use the HDMI port, plug it into my TV. So there's a great accessory ecosystem that comes with both of these devices. Then AT&T and Motorola were kind enough this time around to send the lap dock, so I've been testing that out on the Atrix 4G, and that's a nifty little feature. So, but it's interesting because, like I said, back to the fragmentation thing, you can see little things like how the icons are different, and just how it's slightly, ever so slightly different on this one versus the Motorola Photon 4G. So you can see here, same kind of concept with the apps recent downloaded in AT&T. Now, a big benefit that you're going to love about this, AT&T users and people that have criticized AT&T in the past, you can uninstall, not only, well, a couple things. Not only can you install sideload applications now, but you can also uninstall those little pesky AT&T apps that you don't like. You can go in directly and uninstall those. So not only can you do that, and if I don't drop the device, but you can sideload applications now thanks to the Gingerbread update. So that's a cool feature. And then out of the box you get AT&T stuff like Code Scanner, Family Map, Live TV. You get the Music Store, which is new, My AT&T, Rich Location on this one as well, Quick Office, text message, or wait, not text messaging, I don't know why I said that. But some AT&T stuff, and actually it's easier just to go in here so you can see what bloatware comes pre-installed. Navigator, Blockbuster, V-Lingo, and YP Mobile. So I guess I could have just done that on both from the very beginning, but hey, it wouldn't be fun if I did it like that, now would it? Now I can go, like I just showed you, into group name, and I believe it's go up here and then hit new group, yeah. New group, and then I can add Aaron's Cool Apps, and then I can transfer some of the apps that I use frequently over, and in Aaron's Cool Apps, transfer those over and have a specific folder as well. So pretty similar in terms of the widgets as well. You can see that the icons here are pretty similar. And you choose between Motorola's widgets and Android's widgets. So go to Motorola ones, for example, just so you can see. And then obviously, because these are different devices, this Photon 4G, this is running HSPA+, so theoretically it is one of AT&T's 4G devices as well. We'll do the speed test later, but you can see you can add these toggles. On this one you get the 4G scan now on the 4G toggle on the Sprint side, and then you get GPS toggle, which you get on this one as well, but you don't get a dedicated 4G toggle. This one, yeah, this one doesn't give you the ability to choose between those two. It just shows H+ over there in the corner, and you can see how that icon has changed. And then, if you're in an HSPA+ area, great, you're going to get 4G speeds. If you're not, well, it's probably going to show H+ as well, but you're still going to get 3G speeds. So a little bit misleading there, but still. Now, one thing I like about the Motorola widgets, and I've shown this off in a lot of the videos, and because these are the same, I'm just going to show you on one, the ability to customize the widget. So we can go into the calendar, for example, here, and I can make it bigger if I want to. I can make it this way if I want to. I can make it, can't make it like that. But you see this customization that I have on the calendar. So let's say, I can really make these home screens, which both of these come with 7 home screens, by the way. can really make these home screens mine. So let's go over here, for example, and say it's a really busy looking screen. I have all these contacts. I can come down here, I can do Motorola, I can do weather, for example, hit done, and I can bring it right down there in that little small space that I have. So look how easy that is. It really gives you the ability to maximize the screen space as opposed to something like Sense, which has beautiful widgets, don't get me wrong, but they're very large widgets in most cases. And you know, when they take up the screen, even if you have a small space, they won't let you put it on that home screen. So this, you can really fill up those home screens with widgets that you want. You can customize and change them around. You can make that a little smaller if you want to. Bring this one down. And then I can make this one larger. So just a lot of customization. So even though they're not as pretty, per se, as the HTC widgets, and even some of the TouchWiz widgets and TouchWiz 4.0, it's very, very functional. And I love the ability to do that. Let's go into text messaging on both of these devices. You know, like I said, the icons are a little bit different, but really when you get into the meat of it, it's going to be very similar. Now, one thing I like, and I think I pointed this out in the very beginning, but I can't remember, go to the notifications bar and you can see the differences here. And you know, minor differences, for example, the date and the network ID are switched out. AT&T prefers to keep theirs up at the top at all times, whereas, you know, Sprint, most of the other carriers don't really care. So you can see down here, for example, so let's say, you know, I have 5 notifications. I have an email, a text message, a phone call, and then I have this Twitter notification. Well, let's just say I've already read the Twitter notification on the computer and I don't have to read it on the phone. Well, I can come in here and individually get rid of my notifications. So it's really much better than that all or nothing approach that Android typically takes. So that's one little feature I like about the new platform. So we'll go in here and we'll go to text messaging, for example, and you can see the keyboard. Let me load this up on the Photon as well. And we'll do some quick ones here. The Quick Brown Fox likes Jenga. I think it's J-N-G-A, Jenga. Quick Brown Fox likes Jenga. Now, obviously, this is a 4.3-inch display, and it's much longer than the Atrix 4G. There is a noticeable screen size difference between these two devices. So if you have large thumbs, you find it hard to type on a virtual QWERTY keyboard, you probably want to go with the Photon 4G. So you can see the Motorola multi-touch keyboard in landscape, nice and roomy, and even in portrait mode, still pretty roomy. And you can see those nice transition effects that come on the new build. Now this one comes with swipe and with a multi-touch keyboard, so if that's your thing, you have the option to do that. Now over here in the AT&T, when it's a 4-inch display, so it's a little bit smaller, but still, the keyboard does a great job of auto-correction. So the Quick Brown Fox, the Quack Brown Fox is hungry. Quick Brown Fox is hungry, and again, you can turn this one into landscape mode as well, but because it is a slightly smaller screen, there's a noticeable size difference. Still, I think, you know, honestly, unless you just have really big thumbs, you're going to be fine with either one of these devices, because I have pretty big thumbs, and I can text pretty well on both of these. I don't notice, you know, for the most part, I don't notice the screen size difference, but you can tell that this one's a little bit smaller than the Photon 4G. Now, in the input method here, you have multi-touch and swipe as well, so you have the option to bring up swipe if you want to. And same thing on this one. We'll bring it down here, and you can bring up swipe and get going on swipe on the Photon 4G as well. So a couple different options depending on your personal keyboard preferences.